Today we're going to use both a 3/32 and a 1/8 inch 6013 rod. These are the easiest rods to work with. They only make a medium strength weld, but they're very easy to work with. They're easy to light off and they're easy to get going again. So let's set things up and we'll get going with the 3/32, switch over to the 1/8, and then we'll finish up with some MIG welding. So that was the 3/32 rod. We're going to switch over to the 1/8 rod. The key to running your rod or your MIG gun or your TIG torch is the distance from your torch or your electrode to the work. You want the distance to be really close. Anytime you get a long arc distance, you get bad welds no matter what kind of welding system you're using. So the key here is to keep your rod really close to the metal without it sticking, but keep it basically close, and then you can manipulate the rod or the MIG or the TIG in several ways. You can do a straight pass, that's just a running pass, or you can go side to side with some side-to-side manipulation, or you can do circles. You can do E-patterns, you can do a lot of different patterns depending on how you want the weld to come out. So let's try that once more with the heat turned down. It seems to be running quite a bit better. It was running a little too hot. Turned it down and now we're getting a much better profile. So next up we're going to have the apprentice welder come up. Pam's the apprentice welder. We're going to have her run a bead with the 3/32 and the 1/8 inch, and then just see how she likes the two different rods. Okay, this is Pam the welder. She's the apprentice. We're teaching her how to stick weld and MIG weld for these projects we're doing. So she's going to start out with the 3/32 rod, trying that. And then we'll switch over to the 1/8 inch rod. Looks like we're running a little fast. Slow it up a little bit and kind of move back. Looks like you're running the stick really fast. Okay. So it's not, you're not giving enough time to like clip into the last puddle. So you're running a lot, just way too fast. Okay. So try it again. Try it once more with the 1/8 inch rod. Take your time. Maybe make circles or something, but progress much slower. Okay. That's good enough to start out with. Next we'll set up for MIG welding, and I'll just run through the basics of MIG. But the idea is run your rod slow. Don't put too much heat or too little heat into it, and practice stacking up your beads until you get a good continuous bead stacking pattern, even with stick.
Okay.
So now we're moving on to looking at MIG welding. Again, we're using the Northern Industrial Hybrid MIG Stick 200 on the MIG setting. We're using 100% CO2 gas. CO2 gas, straight CO2, is a lot cheaper than the C25, which is 25% carbon dioxide and 75% argon. This is much cheaper, and if you practice at it, you can get your welds just as good as with C25. Now with MIG welding, the torch angle is important. You want the torch to be as perpendicular or at 90 degrees as you can get it to the workpiece. When you're working in a fillet weld, like a piece of angle iron like this, if you're welding two plates together, you can't go 90 degrees to one plane or 90 degrees to the other plane. It's perpendicular to the 90-degree angle, which is 45 degrees. So in the case of a fillet, you're coming in at 45 degrees or perpendicular to the corner, the inside corner or the outside corner, depending on what you're welding. That's the difference. When you're in a fillet joint, it's really a 45-degree or perpendicular to the joint, not perpendicular to either plate. Okay, we'll go ahead and light up on a flat piece just to test it out. Show what the MIG weld will do on a flat sheet. We'll do some practicing on that before we go on to a fillet or some other joint. Gas is on. You have two controls for MIG welding. You have a voltage control and you have a wire feed control. And after you get to practicing with it, you see how voltage and wire feed speed work on your particular machine, depending on the thickness of the metal, and you get to know that with practice. Well, the other important point is the distance of the gun to your workpiece should be no more than about a ½ inch, closer to like 3/8 to a ½ inch from the workpiece. You got to hold a tight arc where you get really bad welds. Now, the first weld I had too low a voltage and too high wire feed speed, so it was sputtering along, making a really tall, bad weld. Once I cranked the voltage up and the wire feed speed back down, then it started making a pretty good weld. You can hear the difference. In the first one it was like sputtering, and then in the second one it sounded more like bacon frying, or kind of a steady frying kind of a sound. So try that one more time and then get the apprentice in here now that I get it dialed in, and she can give it a try. Oh yeah, that's looking a whole lot better. I tweaked it just a little bit more, turned the wire feed speed down another quarter turn or quarter degree, and put the heat up or the voltage up a little more. Now we're getting good, real good welds on 1/8 inch material. So we'll get the apprentice in here and let her try. Okay, let's see how you did. Yeah, that looks real good. I think you're a better MIG welder than a stick welder.
Me too.
Looks a whole lot better.
Oh, good.
Especially when the machine's dialed in, you get
Yes.
the right rate.
Yes,
And yeah, you'll do okay with the MIG actually.
I like it
The
better.
MIG's a whole lot easier.
Hmm.
Like I said, when you're working on these fillet joints, like this is our natural gas power generator project we're putting together right now. When you're welding these joints, you're coming in at 45 degrees in this direction, 90 degrees this way. You come in just like this, and you go left to right, right to left, whatever. We'll be back on another Copperland workshop project. We'll show you how we're coming on the power generator. That's your first project coming up. And we're going to have a lot of other projects like the World Car, all kinds of stuff we're putting together. So until then, see you later.